Welcome back to another episode on Connie Celica, our 1977 Toyota Celica. Today we're going to seal up the ITBs so we get rid of that Subaru sound effect at idle. Plus we're going to tackle a few other small problems, including a weird noise coming from the transmission. If you guys recall our startup video, we had a weird sound at idle, more or less, where it was sounding kind of choppy, like a Subaru engine does with unequal length headers. It was very like blop 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 sound.
And it was revving to the moon.
And yeah, the idle was really high too, wasn't it? But once we revved the motor out, it smoothed right out and sounded good. At first we thought we had a misfire. We checked that, it wasn't a misfire. We eventually concluded that we had leaky ITBs because I hadn't sealed the ITBs to the adapter plate. There's an excessive manufacturing adapter plate in here to allow us to run these AE111 ITBs. And it requires RTV sealant on the front and the back of that adapter, which I knew, I just never got around to doing. And we were just excited to start it up, and it turns out leaky ITBs make for funny noises because you're getting unequal vacuum in each cylinder. Once we seal that up, that should go away. So that's what we're gonna do right now, which means pulling all this stuff off, and we'll fire the motor back up and see how she sounds. Now that we've taken the ITBs off, it's pretty clear what the problem is, Peter. This bolt is super loose, like it's not even finger tight. It's backed out, maybe just from vibrations. So
fully tightened that
when we mocked this up, we clearly did not go hard on the tightening.
Are they all loose?
Yeah, well, oh yeah, that one's super loose, dude. What about this one? Oh yeah, super loose. Well, so this one is actually, oh no, well that was almost tight. Like I can loosen all these by hand, so this thing was literally just slapped on there to test fit the ITBs, and then we never came back to it. Anyway, let's get this thing RTV'd on here, and we'll see if she sounds better. So during that startup video, I was dancing around like a monkey out of excitement, and we didn't mention the fact that the fuel pump was acting a little weird. Basically, you'd ignition on and it would prime and not shut off.
Yes, constantly on.
Constantly on, and actually when we would shut it off, it would run too.
Yeah.
So we had a constant fuel pump issue, but we didn't care at the time because it was just exciting to see it run. Now we care, we want to work out the bugs, and Dov spent a little bit of time here in the Datalink II software, which is what you use to control the Smartwire PDM.
Yes.
And you think you've got it sorted out?
Yeah, so in the conditions screen, so basically how to trigger this pump, the first condition is that you get switch signal from the ECU, which is working properly.
Yeah.
And it also had this secondary set point where if it had 12 volts on the ignition, it would run the fuel pump. So anytime you turn the key on, it was just constantly running. So we just get rid of this functionality, say we don't care about that. Hit OK, and we'll send the configuration, and it should just be A-OK now.
Should be happy?
We hope.
So let's give it a test and see if it actually primes and shuts off like a normal car should.
Yeah. So
before, when I would turn the ignition on, oh, that's a really short prime. That's like a nice 2-second prime. That's like, is that enough prime?
1.5 seconds.
That's
Should be,
enough?
as long as you plan on starting it within a minute. Yeah.
Okay. Now if I shut it off, it stops priming. So this is good. I think we have the fuel pump under control, which means maybe it's time to fire this thing up and see if my RTV job fixed the problem.
For sure.
All right, for sure. Let's do it. I'm gonna send it right now, PT.
Send it.
There it goes.
Oh yeah.
It does sound a lot better already. Our RTV job apparently did the trick because it sounds nice and quiet up here now. No more Subaru noises.
Hey, this is the best sound ever.
It is the best sound ever if you run a Subaru shop, which we don't. Although we may do a Subaru build soon. Foreshadowing. Anyway, the fuel pump is priming properly now, so I think we got a handle on that. Now let's throw in the drive shaft, and we'll let you listen to this weird gravelly noise that we seem to
Marbles
have.
in the transmission.
I don't know what it is,
Marbles in the
but
transmission.
not a good sound.
This is the hardest anyone ever seen me work in an episode of Connie Celica here. I'm not used to this. It's going to weird them out.
You are doing all the work today.
I know.
It's impressive. I was going to crawl under there, and then I thought, nah.
Let them do something for a
You're
change.
already doing all the work. Might as well let you keep
This
doing
streak
it.
alive.
Righty tighty, lefty loosey. All right, let's fire this thing up and row through the gears and see if we can recreate this noise we got last time, which you may have noticed at the end of the video where we I drove the car back and forth a bit. You may have heard a rattling noise.
Sounded so bad.
Oh, in person it was terrible. It sounded like the transmission was going to explode. So, there goes nothing. Sounds normal now. What's going on here?
DP?
Let's put it through the gears here. First gear, release the clutch. Back wheel spinning. Yes. Second gear, back wheel spinning.
Yep.
Third gear,
It has magically fixed itself.
fourth gear, fifth gear, sixth gear.
Okay, what about reverse?
Reverse. There's reverse.
Yeah.
It's all working. It's weird when a car fixes itself because you wonder when it's going to come back, but I guess I shouldn't complain. I don't have to buy another transmission, so maybe all that work we did up there tightened something down that was rattling and we were blaming it on the transmission when it was never the transmission at all. I have no idea. Anyway, let's check that off the list as fixed and move on to something else. In this episode of fixing little things that need to be fixed, we've moved on to sealing up the fenders, which were cut for the fender flares. You guys saw that an episode or two ago, and in the process of cutting it, there were little openings that were showing light through on the inside of the car. So we knew we needed to seal this up. That was always part of the plan, and so we're going to seal it up with a chassis sealant. This is heavy-duty Proform stuff, and it goes on thick and will really seal up any kind of opening that you have. We're also going to throw some cavity wax in, but we're going to wait until after paint before we do that. The nice thing about this stuff is you can primer and paint over top of it, so that's why we're doing this first. I've already done one layer on here, as you can see, and it takes about an hour to harden up. It's got a good sort of rubbery feel to it now, so I'm just going to put a thin top coat on it, just because I'm paranoid and I want it to be as good of a job as possible. So I've just been literally just putting it on my finger and kind of smearing it on rather than trying to like lay a bead.
That's actually a good idea.
I think it's the way to go on this. I'll go around both rear fenders with this stuff with a top coat, and then I think we'll move on to fixing the hydro e-brake, which you guys were kind enough to point out in the comments section that we got the lines backwards on the master cylinder on the e-brake itself. We just assumed that the front port would go to the front of the car and the back port would go to the back of the car, but it's actually the other way around.
Well, Dave, the good news is this should be an easy fix in terms of me bending the lines, but the bad news is they will crisscross at the back here. Instead of coming up and going like this, they're going to go like this.
Oh, I see what you mean,
But
yeah.
I don't think it's going to be that big a deal.
If we really cared about the aesthetics of it, I guess we could pop them back down through the chassis and
Yeah,
straighten
I don't know.
them out,
Maybe
but
maybe you could.
Anyway, I wouldn't
It's gonna
sweat
look
it.
cooler this way, anyways.
Yeah, people will think it's intentional.
Exactly. So
Well,
let's
that makes
see.
them stronger to crisscross them like that, bro.
Oh, yeah.
But
Okay.
the fittings are going different sizes. We're gonna have to cut them off and refire
Oh,
the lines.
damn.
I don't know what to do. My whole brain is crying.
Oh, this just got harder, PT.
I thought we were fixing this up top, PT. What's going on?
Well, in an effort to get this done and to make it look clean up top still, I figured instead of switching the lines up top, we can switch them in the bottom here. That should work, right?
Yeah, that'll work.
So it's a little bit more uncomfortable, but these are the same fittings. So it's
No
not
cutting
going to
or
be...
flaring required.
Yeah, exactly. Just a little bit of bending, which I'm pretty sure I can do pretty easily here. Now that the top is loose too, I can just kind of like pass these through and figure this out. And then we can bend them straight.
What a genius call.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm a creative genius, and there's no other way to word it.
Okay. We flipped the lines. So I think we're good down here, DP.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call that a job done. Thankfully, we didn't start doing it up top and then figured this out. Rather, we did this first. So I think we're good to go on that one.
Well, I guess that's a wrap on this Fix It episode where we solved some problems and potentially created some new ones that we'll solve in another episode. Thanks again for watching. Appreciate all the thumbs up, and try hitting that subscribe button too if you're feeling generous. I think in the next episode, you're going to see me blow this car up. And not in the, Bugs Bunny Hour sense, but in the teardown sense, because it's about to go to GT Customs in Oshawa, where our friend Mike Cattell is going to put a roll bar in it and patch up a bunch of holes in the firewall and do some other fabrication type stuff. Stay tuned for that. Lots more good Connie stuff still to come. You know what the nice thing about this Speed Academy hoodie, which you can get at speedacademy.shop is in the bib here, I can put my hardware for these fender flares. So it's not just about looking good, it's also about being functional, isn't it? Kind of like Connie Celica here. And it's also a really good rust protectant. Why is that hard to say, Peter? Rust protectant.